Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 647 to 648 for the 2nd to the 3rd of December. Major news in the Bakhmut Front. So at the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces have made further progress from Kromove. We know that Kromove has been captured on the 29th of November, and since then the Russian forces have continued to push southwest from Kromove region, as well as from the westernmost tip of Bakhmut down along this reservoir or lake region, and they are now very close to the outskirt of Ivanivske or Krasny in Russian. And so if I zoom out a bit, you can see that this is Ivanivske. This is the Ukrainian I would say a stronghold of this stronghold. The Russian forces previously the Wagner forces have struggled to actually penetrate into Ivanivske. And as per I mentioned when Kromove was captured, I say that the Russians could possibly come from the north, from this direction, and it seems like I am probably correct. This is based on the mapping from Ryba. Ryba actually drew it in this way, and if this is true, then they are now on the they are very near to the outskirts of Ivanivske. We are talking about less than a kilometer away, so this is actually very significant. And I'm not sure if there is another push coming from along the highway, because we still have the reports from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry about fighting in the area of Ivanivske. And previously, when we have this, is assumed to be along this highway, the T0504. So I'm not sure if this is a kind of pincer that we are probably looking at. If this is the case, then we'll probably see a mini pincer, so that they can actually capture this entire area pretty quickly. And if this advance both is happening at the same time, we will probably also see some major withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from the outskirts of Bakhmut into Ivanivske quickly, because they will be encircled if they do not retreat. So this is the current situation over at the Bakhmut western part of Bakhmut. And further up north, from Kromove as well, the Russian forces are also pushing northward. They are pushing northward as well as pushing towards Bodanivka, as well as attacking from the north of Bodanivka. And this is currently happening. We do already know that there is a major fortification along this band at the highway of 0506. So we shall see how this goes. The Russian forces still have not met this fortification just yet, but we do have geolocation of a Russian drone dropping grenades on infantry around the band at this highway region. So situation here is getting very precarious for the Ukrainian forces. I seem to be seeing this almost every SITREP. And further in the southern half, or the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces continue their attack over Klishchiivka, Andriivka, and Kodyomivka. And so we previously say that we do not know exactly how far was this, or what is the situation around this area. In today's SITREP, we actually have further information based on the information from Deep State UA. As you can see, in the past 24 hours, the report was mentioned by Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and Deep State UA actually says that based on their preliminary data, that possibly Russian forces at the outermost houses of the last village, which is basically Klishchiivka. So which means that there is a possibility that we might see the Russians have already retaken this entire railway line. But we cannot confirm this just yet, because this is based on the rumors, so we cannot update this map as per that yet. But there is a possibility that the Russian forces have now reached these first houses at the northern part of Klishchiivka. And if this is true, this basically wasted, I would say, months of effort from the Ukrainian forces. You can see fighting at the northeast of Klishchiivka was 27th September. That was like 2 months ago. So the Ukrainian forces have made so much effort to try to push out from Klishchiivka, but it seems like it's all coming to naught, as the Ukrainian forces is now getting ramped back into Klishchiivka itself, and we might see a battle within Klishchiivka again in the coming weeks. then that will be disastrous, because Klishchiivka is pretty flat. There is not a lot of places to hide unless you dig a hole, which is pretty much like what happened in Marinka. But we shall see. There is also attacks on Ukrainian forces along the road, around this area here along the road. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's either artillery or the FPV drones. And yeah, that's the situation over in the Bakhmut Front. And then before I move on to yet another front line, yet another very major news, also coming from Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source reported that according to one of the interview with the K2 battalion of the 54 Mechanized Brigade, the commander said that in the area north of Soledar, so this is Soledar for those that are not familiar. This is the bra of Donetsk. There's a bra here. This is also known as Soledar. In the northern part of above Soledar, in the north of Soledar, the ratio of forces between the Russians and the Ukrainians is 5:1 in favor of the Russians. And they also have emphasized that this is not yet an active section of the front. So they are now somewhat worried that there's a need for layered defense. Is now very critical, which means that the Russian forces are concentrating forces north of Soledar, which is here, and the Ukrainian forces is currently outnumbered 5:1, and this is going to be disastrous, because 5:1 is way above the NATO standard of So there is always this saying, when you go into offensive, you need to be 3:1 in terms of ratio against the defenders. It's not a fix and fast rule per se. It's just that 3:1 give you the best chances of success, but 5:1 is a lot. It's a lot more. So it doesn't mean that 3:1 means you will surely win the offensive operation. I'm just saying, this is just a rule of thumb. It's not a fix and fast rule. If 3% take a piece of paper versus one person taking a GPMG, a machine gun, the 3% is still going to die. So I'm just saying, don't take the numbers too hard. But 5:1 plus, we already know that the Russians have artillery advantage, they have attack helicopters advantage, they have air support advantage, tank advantage in terms of superiority of number of tanks, armored vehicles, drones. Now Russians have more drones, more rocket artillery. I do not know how it will feel a lot more like 10:1 to be honest. So the Russians could actually attack in multiple fronts based on this kind of numbers. They can go for Vasyukivka and take Vasyukivka, go towards Pazano, and then they will execute one of those plans that I mentioned half a year or 1 year ago. They can also take over Rozdolivka. They push northward and circle back to the rear of Vasily, capture Fedorivka, head down to Perizne, and actually can go all the way to Siversk city. This could be possible, and it will be disastrous if the Russians actually head that way. And for those that do not know, I did mention that this is actually the critical town. Right, Alexandrivka is the town that the Russians will be targeting, along with this one is called, I'm not sure, Kalenki. So if the Russians can attack in this way, capture Bazeno, go up, they will cut off this road. Then basically there is no roads left from Siversk other than going through Krasny Liman. Or Liman. So because through Siversk, there's only this road from Liman all the way down south to Ryhorivka, and there's another road through Kalenki to Alexandrivka, then down the highway, or through Mykolaievka and then go down south of Ryhorivka. So there is only these two main roads. So the Russians just cut this one. The Ukrainians will have to go through the forest. It will be quite disastrous because, as you will see, the Russians are also making a lot of progress around Kreminna. So since we are talking about Kreminna, let's go to Kreminna Front. So this Kreminna Front, at the Kreminna Front, the Ukrainian forces launched a counter-offensive operation over at Yampolivka, Toske, as well as Serebranske Forestry, with the Russians are reportedly also attacking within Serebranske Forestry. The Deep State UA also released a satellite imagery showing the current state of the forest situation in Serebranske Forestry is basically 70% bad. It might be because of autumn, it might be because of fighting. Most of this green is actually gone. So which means that it's not that easy to hide, as per what it was previously when the forest is still very lush. So yeah, so that's something to note. Over in the Terny region, the Russian forces have captured this tree line here. So there is this tree line previously under Ukrainians. The Russians have basically captured it as they progress further over at the eastern part of Terny. But however, weirdly, there was this geolocated by Kreminna Front. So you can see this is Terny. At this location, showing the Ukrainian forces getting drone strike by attacked by FPV drones. So we should put into question either the information by this mapping is actually by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian sources, saying that the Russians are progressing, or there could be a case where this footage is actually dated earlier. It was not so fast, or maybe the Russians only progressed in the north and actually not in the southern part here. So we shall continue to monitor and see what is this like. As you can see, information from Deep State UA showing that the Russian forces captured many positions in a week. So, and then they also mentioned further about the detailed about the situation of the Russian forces moving in the eastern part of Terny. They are continuing to progress. And yeah, so that's it from the Kreminna Front. We move away from this area. We go down to the Kherson region. At the Kherson Front, the Russian forces have launched an attack against the Ukrainian forces. So rifle battles was reported, with the Russians continue to drop airstrikes as well as artillery against the village. So the Russians are attacking, and they are still trying to push the Ukrainians. The last known is that there is still hundreds of Ukrainian forces within the village, so it's not going to be easy. Chris 759 had geolocated the drone strike at this position, so clearly showing that the Ukrainians are still within the village area. They are holding the position, well or not well, depending on how you look at it. So that's it from the Kherson region. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, at the Zaporizhzhia Front, we have actions over at the Orikhiv sector. At the Orikhiv sector, this is Orikhiv. At the Orikhiv sector, the Russian forces has launched a counterattack, a major counterattack in this region here. Fighting is reported south of Robotine in the area of Novoprokopivka in the west and northwest of Verbove. However, the Russian Defense Ministry did mention on the 3rd of December that the Ukrainians did try to attack around in the Verbove region. Probably it's a counterattack. But now the tide in this region here is entirely Russian at this moment. All this information is coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are attacking south of Robotine in the Novoprokopivka region, west and northwest of Verbove. All Ukrainian information. So that's it from the Orikhiv sector. We have a geolocation by Kreminna Front showing Russian forces within Merne. So this is Merne. The Russian forces is geolocated in this location, attacked by a FPV drone. And so this is interesting because I can't remember under what kind of intel. I have mapped Merne as under Russian control. And Kreminna Front actually say that they actually do not know Merne was clearly under Russian or not until this geolocation. So I'm too lazy to go through, like almost 1.5 years and more of mapping to try to find out when did I say Merne is under Russian control. But yes, now we can confirm Merne is definitely under Russian control, and the Ukrainians are over on the side of Chernihiv and Huyapoliske. So let's see how this go. Oh, this looks like a okay. Moving on over at the Velika Novosibirsk sector. This is Velika Novosibirsk, and at this area here, the Russian forces launched attack over the western part of Staromayoske, as well as towards Staromayoske with so this is basically what's happening mainly in this area here. This is Staromayoske, where the Ukrainians have proudly captured and managed to link up with Uruzhaine. This is actually a very, very important success on the Ukrainian offensive during this past year. And the Russians are attacking Staromayoske, and on the western part, information actually comes from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Russian Defense Ministry did mention that they attacked Staromayoske. Mostly these actions are on the 3rd. The fighting on the west is actually reported on for the 2nd. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting shot by artillery at Uruzhaine, geolocated by military summary. We move. There is also another geolocation by Kreminna in the northwestern part of Novodarivka. So this was another Ukrainian artillery getting destroyed by a Lancet. So the Lancet suicide drone continues to wreak havoc, and again this time round the artillery is around 8 kilometers away from the front line. So yeah, so the Ukrainian artillery are really sitting ducks now for the Lancets, and the Ukrainians have no equivalents like the Lancet on their side. And the closest probably they have is HIMARS, but the Russians also have other forms of multiple launch rocket system like the tornadoes, Iskandar, but no, they don't use it that much. No, the Russians don't have that kind of doctrine to use like a M270 HIMARS type of multiple launch rocket system in that manner. So we move on over at the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, there is fighting reported at the Soledar region. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported southeastern part of Soledar was under attack by the Russians, and the Russian Defense Ministry actually acknowledged the attack the next day. So the Russians are attacking in this area here. I'm not sure if this is just a skirmishy thing. Mostly it's a skirmishy thing. So it's going to be just a light assault, probing attack. Don't need to worry too much. You can still invest in real estate in Soledar. If you're interested in some real estate in the fortress city of Soledar, do let me know. I have no links to anything there to sell you, but you can still send me money. In the Patreon, Coffee, Locals, and Boosty, do check the links below in the description. I would definitely happy to accept some of your money to continue my work here to report on the situation at Soledar. So at Novomikhailivka, there is fighting reported over here, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and corroborated by the Russians, with the Russians continue to be attacking in the area of Novomikhailivka. As usual, we do not know where the vector of attack. We're just going to assume that it's in the south. And over at the Marinka region, Marinka still has not fallen. Marinka holds. So the Marinka continues to hold. But it was the map by the Ukrainian side was updated to look like this. So the Ukrainians still hold positions in the northern corner over in the southern part of Marinka, with the Russians continue to be attacking in this area here. They did not map the house with the Russian flag as under Russian control. They put it under the gray zone, which I think is accurate in terms of DPA's mapping. We do not play so much into the gray zone thing. You see overlaps, these are all gray zones. So yeah. And the area that is actually either very purely blue or purely red is basically showing that that's the part where the site actually have freedom of movement, even though they can be shot and killed, but they still have movement over there. The Ukrainians or the Russians on the opposite side, it's not there. And that's all from the Donetsk Front. Over at the Avdiivka Front, yet another major front line that there's too many major things. Now I can't put them all in the front. So don't be sad that you've actually missed this report, because if you miss this report, you didn't know this report exists. So there's nothing to be sad about. So because we are now 90 minutes into the video, where more than half of the people would already stop watching. So so there's nothing to be said about, because they wouldn't see this report. But there is a major concentration of Russian forces at Krasnohorivka, according to Deep State UA, and they say that the Russians continue to send in forces into this area here in order to Popasna out. Popasna is actually another village or city that was captured by the Russians previously, where from that one village they actually spread out in all directions. This is exactly what we are seeing here at Krasnohorivka, and the Russians continue to be sending forces into Krasnohorivka to aid and continue this operation. So the of course, we can always draw fantasy lines like Ukrainians could have just pincered and encircled the entire Russian forces, but why the Ukrainians didn't do it, I do not know. So anyway, the Russians are over at the strategic picture side. Let's look at it. There is fighting so-called reported in the eastern part of Novobakhmutivka. Again, I do not know how this attack going to appear, but there was fighting reported east of Novokalinove, south of Novokalinove, towards Oteretini, at Stepove, south of Stepove, in the coke plant, east of the coke plant, in the south of at Avdiivka, Zhevene, south of Tonienki, and Pervomaisky. So this is the current situation. There is no Ukrainian attacks being reported. Everything is Russian attack. So situation continued to be quite shitty. The main thing that was a change in the front line was actually around the Stepove region. So according to Deep State UA, the Russian forces have actually progressed in the south of Stepove, whereas Stepove itself is still pretty much a very grey village. The Russians have only firm control over on the eastern outskirt. The village itself is basically no man's land. Ukrainian forces can freely enter and attack and then get destroyed. The Russians also freely attack and then get destroyed. So this is the situation over here. With the Russians continue to progress, however, in the northern part towards Orechetini. So they are trying to push northwestward towards. I actually raised my hand, but in the other hand, but you cannot see. So yeah, towards the Orechetini region. And then Deep State UA also mentioned that the Russians tried to attack the coke plant, but to no avail. And then they actually push south around this water facility over here. Yeah, so that's the situation around the northern part of Avdiivka city. I think the Russians are not actually pushing for the coke plant. So no, that is what the Ukrainian side say. But as I mentioned before, the Russians have no rush to attack the coke plant itself. As I mentioned, they will push south of Stepove, capture these three lines, and then not tree lines, like plants, tree, like it looks like a broccoli, tree line. And yeah, so they'll take this tree line, which means that the Russians have encirclement around the coke plant. That's when they actually will do this push towards down south, and that will also mean that they actually have entire control or fire control over the road, which is the road to Olivka. So this is this road would then be totally unusable, and then the Russians, while they're attacking the coke plant, they can actually go further south and kill off the main road going through Lastochkini. And yeah, so that would more likely be the case of what is happening in this area here. So geolocation of Ukrainian forces, on the eastern part of Stepove clearly shows, this by Kreminna Front should clearly show how easily the Ukrainian forces can actually just enter the village and do fire attacks on the Russian lines. And then in the south of Avdiivka, there was an interesting footage that came out. Kreminna Front geolocated it at this location in the south. This is basically the Russians using a transport drone. So the Americans call it the Mune. So basically, it's actually a remote control vehicle where you can actually send ammunition, food, or even the injured soldier without risking your own soldier. Basically, it's like a drone, remote control drone, the ground drone, land drone that you can actually send ammo. And based on the footage that was released, it looks really successful. It was even attacked by the Ukrainian FPV drone, but it missed. So it was it will become a very important, I wouldn't say game changer. Game changer sounds a bit too big, but it would be a game changer for the infantries on the ground for sure. That they no longer need to risk their own life to reinforce and resupply the front line. So, but it does also reveals the location of the entrenchments. So it's not like perfect, but it is interesting. I shared a video over on the DPA's Telegram channel. If you are not subscribed to the Telegram channel, do check it out. You'll probably see some interesting stuff. So the rest of the area here is not very interesting, and that's it over at the Avdiivka Front. And we covered Bakhmut. So Siversk, at the Siversk Front, there was a geolocation of Ukrainian forces just off Bilohorivka, getting airstrike by the Russians. Otherwise, nothing significant happened over here. We have covered Kreminna. We move into Svatove. At the Svatove Front, mainly we have some Russian attack in the area of Kreminna and Berestove, but no much details to talk about. We do not know much about this area here. And we move into the Kupyansk Front. So this is Kupyansk city. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces continue their Kupyansk offensive with attack reported as Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, as well as Ivanivske. There was a bit weird report. Ryba reported say near Pervomayske, but there's actually no Pervomayske in this area here, so it's kind of weird. The Ukrainians did attack at Sinkivka. They did counter attack. So there's the strategic situation. It looks like every other day. So there's not much to talk about. Let me see the details. In terms of details, Ryba also didn't mention much in this area here. Yeah, so we do have some other information. Other than this geolocation of this some vehicle, reportedly an electronic warfare vehicle, get hit by a Russian FPV suicide drone. Reinforcement was reported at Voronezh. This is reported by Ryba, with the Ukrainian forces sending forces further to Voronezh to do something. But Voronezh is a bit weird because the front line is actually here. This is actually the main front line where the Russians are pushing. They are pushing in this area here. So the Ukrainian forces continue to gather forces around Voronezh. Is kind of unusual. But we do know that the Ukrainian forces do have some tanks and artillery operating from this area here, hitting Russian positions previously. We do not hear much about that nowadays, so I'm not sure what is this about. But that's it. That's it from the Kupyansk Front, and thank you for watching. I have checked out the comments. A lot of people wrote Slava Tipani. I'm very happy. I'm happy to see that that people actually watch all the way to the end. Although yes, people ask me, can't you see it within the analytics? Actually, I can see it in the analytics, but it's different. Analytics is data. You guys comment is human, or maybe bots. But I will feel I feel more connected. And thank you for watching. Do share this with your people that might be interested in the situation in Ukraine, and also do spam it on your social media. To press the like button. That's important to help to push the video to more people. As usual, YouTube don't really like me that much. They prefer all these pro-Ukrainian accounts. Yeah, so I just saw one totally random Ukrainian account suddenly started reporting Ukraine war out of a sudden. Previously was like posting entertainment stuff, and then they are getting 3 times more view than me. But but to qualify, the channel is actually like a few million subscribers strong, so hard to argue about that. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next update.